I will always do what I say, and not every politician can stand here and say that.
Greensboro City Council Member Tony Wilkins, thank you so much for taking time to join us on Greensboro Television Network today.
Thank you, Donnie.
Tony, we are here in the Adams Farm community, overlooking the pond here at the boathouse at the Swim and Tennis Club. This is hometown for you. This is specifically home neighborhood for you. Talk about what the Adams Farm community means to you as a representative of District 5.
Well, we've been here almost 13 years, and we're raising our children here. It's a great community, as you can see, the beauty, and it's also known for its wonderful walking trails. We have tremendous neighbors. We've just really enjoyed this community.
Now you are in the midst of your first elected term as a council member, but I figured I would start right away by jumping into the fact that you are very unique in terms of your tenure on council, because you were appointed to City Council to finish out the term of Senator Trudy Wade.
That's right, and I like to refer to that as getting a year of on-the-job training before I ran for office. So I was very fortunate to be able to get that experience before I ran for City Council. And then when I ran last November, I was humbled at the show of support, in which we got about 3 out of 4 votes, and a lot of people would be satisfied with that, but I immediately started wondering, why didn't those 1 out of 4
what
support
can I do
me? What can I do to gain the support of the 1 out of 4 that I didn't get? But I have been very fortunate and humbled to be able to serve the residents of District 5.
Is it a seat on that dais that you ever thought you would have one day? Has this always been on the bucket list?
Well, you know, it really hasn't. Around 1969 or 70, I was elected as vice president of Sedgefield Elementary School, I guess, which began my political career. And then I went on a 35-year hiatus away from politics. And I had a friend ask me that wanted to run for county commissioner if I would run his campaign. Well, you know, it was actually kind of funny because neither one of us knew anything about running a campaign. But it did get me started back and got me involved. I was elected as executive director of the Guilford County GOP for a couple of years. Served about 4 years on the War Memorial Commission. And I really started, Donnie, when I had children, I became of a different mindset. I wanted to be more involved in the community, the decisions of the community. I wanted to, you know, think that I could help improve the community. And so as I became more involved, I progressed to the point, you know, that I've now got a couple of years experience on the City Council. A lot of people have the desire to serve, but I've been fortunate enough to actually be able to do it, and I'm humbled by that.
What were the conversations like between you and Dr. Wade back before you had been appointed? I imagine you got a phone call at some point saying, hey, would you consider doing this?
Yeah, I did, and there were some names that were thrown out there that were pretty much considered for the spot, and then my name got into the mix. And as things progressed, as you know, the magic number is 5, and so nothing happens without 5. And actually,
five being the number of votes
you needed, and you know, the vote that night was actually 5-4, and so I was very fortunate to be the one chosen that would replace Dr. Wade. Can't really replace Dr. Wade, but you know, somebody had to fill that seat, and she was such a good representative of the people in District 5.
You spent the better part of a year really fulfilling that term, and late 2012, a lot of early part of 2013. What was it like being the brand spanking new council member among those 9, in addition to being, in some cases, one of the very few conservative votes on that night?
Yeah, one of the reporters asked me, mentioned about me being quiet the first few meetings on council, and I responded to him that if you knew Robert's Rule of Order, that those members had 2 meetings to change their mind. so I was really in a listen and learn mode, and was very fortunate to be able to pick up the phone and call Dr. Wade and ask you know, her advice or opinions on different things. And so again, I've been very fortunate to be able to fill that role.
As council members, you have, I guess in some cases, the luxury that it's nonpartisan, but you don't hesitate to let everybody know that you're a conservative and that kind of thing. And that certainly, I think, fits with your values and the values of the voters here in District 5, because otherwise they would not have elected Dr. Wade and you for as many years as it has happened. But you have found yourself as that one vote from time to time on things. What's that like?
Well, a lot of times on the end of an 8-to-1 vote, you just can, what I say, squawk. You can just, you know, put your opinion out there. It is the most conservative district, and I think mayors and council members from the last several decades do consider me the most conservative member of council. And I wear that badge with honor. I would hope to get some support along the way, but you know, I've got to, when I stand in front of the people that elected me, I am able to say I'm doing what I told you that I would do. And if I decide to run next year, again, I'm going to be able to stand in front of them and say, you know, you've seen how I vote on certain issues, so you don't have to guess, you know, about how I'm going to govern.
Everybody should kind of know where Tony's coming from.
Yeah. One of the issues that came up that I agreed with, and I was kind of borderline on it, but one of them came up, and one of the council members said, well, it passed the Wilkins test. So I guess that means, again, just confirms the fact that I'm one of the, either the most or one of the most conservative members of council.
Do you think now that you've been in the seat for a little while that the dynamic has changed on council? And certainly it's a different council than it was when you first started, with some of the faces are different, but do you feel like there's got to be a comfort level on your part now and kind of knowing how the process works?
Well, I don't know if there's really a comfort level, but it's certainly more comfortable. And I believe, you know, this council, I think every member on this council really has Greensboro's best interest at heart. We all have different views on what that involves, but that's what makes it so interesting. You know, I do think that this current council has a much better chemistry than the previous council that I served on. We seem to be able to really hash it out behind the scenes, and then, you know, next issue.
Sure.
And I like that. I like that we're able to do that now.
This council, I think, Tony, maybe you would agree, has been very active. There's been a lot on the agenda. There's been a lot of things that have really been moving along. We've talked in reference to the workload that are in work sessions now, and the council meetings aren't going until midnight anymore, but I think the pace has been very, very quick.
Yeah, the 8 or 9 hour council meetings, I just don't think you can mentally function at 1 and 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. But I have been very pleased with how our mayor has been conducting the meetings, and I think you're right. They seem to be a little more work-oriented now, and we seem to move right along.
Sure.
Yeah.
You've had some fun things that have happened along the way, and one thing I wanted to ask you about with a brand new recreation facility that's actually right down the street from where we're standing right now, Griffin Recreation Center. I know you have to feel like that is a feather in the cap for District 5, not just for you, but for Dr. Wade as well.
Right, and Dr. Wade deserves all the credit for that. She worked so hard for that, and we're glad to see the ribbon cutting, the first recreation center to open in Greensboro in 19 years. Declan's playground there is just such a heartwarming story. And you know, we'll go forward now with the walking trails, the dog park, And it's really going to be a huge asset to this area once it's completed.
What else are you proud of from an accomplishment standpoint?
Well, from the start, probably the most calls that I got were issues about High Point Road. And I worked really hard to rebrand that road, brought forward the name Gate City Boulevard. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think that ended up a 5-4 vote. So I had to work really hard behind the scenes. But I think that is going to rebrand that area. We've got the streetscape revitalization coming. A new name where we use Greensboro as a nickname for well over 100 years instead of a sister city's name on that roadway. And I really think that we're going to be able to make that such a plus for us to rebrand that area of Greensboro.
You mentioned at the beginning of our conversation a desire to want to, as a parent, to want to improve your community for the children, or for your children, and whether it's things like a new recreation center or rebranding High Point Road, or even things like International Restaurant Row, which is an idea that you have championed. How do you see those things benefiting this community and creating a better community for the future? Well,
I'll also add that I pledged a fiscal responsibility, and I've been on a two-year process right now to try to get what is the highest tax rate among major cities reduced. And that's not as easy as it sounds, because you have to be concerned with what's going to be cut. I do believe that we'll eventually reduce the high property tax rate. I think we'll eventually get to that. But that, along with the things that you mentioned, just to improve the quality of life in the community, things. And we make, 80 to 100 decisions a month. And so when you combine all of that, in the long run, you just see what you hope are improvements to your community.
As a parent in this community, what would you say to other people who may be watching this program and they're new to the area? What's it like to raise a child in Greensboro?
Well, I have lived here, not only lived here my whole life, I've lived in the same zip code my whole life. And my wife thinks that's weird, by the way. But it is a town of people that care for each other. It's a wonderful, wonderful town to raise your children in. I heard a speaker at one of the luncheons say, Greensboro, your biggest export is brains. And we have all the colleges and universities here. And so we do have to figure out a way how to keep those people here. We have, 46,000 students here, and we have to figure a way to make it desirable for them to stay here.
What do you think council is doing right to accomplish those goals? If you think about this particular council, and economic development, public safety, and infrastructure are kind of thrown around as the three key priorities and goals, what do you think you and your colleagues have done to kind of accomplish those things? Well,
I served 4 years as a firefighter, so I'm a little closely related to the public safety issues. We have a fire department here that has the highest rating in North Carolina, and I think our mayor just stated yesterday that it saves our residents about $100 a year based on the high rating we have. We have a tremendous police department. And public safety to me is hard to put a dollar value on. So that's one huge asset for our community. And I think you have a council that's dedicated to provide jobs. Now that's another thing that's easy to say, but it's a little more difficult to do, especially in this economy. But a combination of those things, I think this council has Greensboro's best interest at heart.
You have served as a member of the City Council's Economic Development Committee and have sat in meetings where potential businesses have been discussed and those sorts of things. If you sat across the table from another business owner who was considering Greensboro, what's the story that you would tell that business owner about our town?
I'd say I'm sorry our property taxes are highest in North Carolina, and I'm working on that. But to look at the overall structure of the city and the history of the city, and just it's a great place to live. You know, I love this. I love this town.
So what's next, Tony, as you look to 2015? Some residents may be seeing this in 2015, but if you think about finishing out your term, what's kind of on the agenda list?
Well, again, I'll go back to High Point Road, which is to become Gate City Boulevard. We've introduced a plan to designate a 3-mile strip there as International Restaurant Road. That's going to be a very exciting project, and we have 158,000 vehicles a day at 2 interchanges there that we want to tell we have 70 eateries in a 5-mile corridor. Leaving the Coliseum, even local people here don't realize that we have that much of a variety, and 40 of those are authentic American and ethnic cuisines. So I think this is something that I hope to see us pass this. I hope to see this pilot project, and then I hope to see maybe that idea go citywide, because I understand we have something like 300 ethnic cuisine restaurants in Greensboro, and we need to promote that diversity and market that diversity, because the inventory is there. It's just a matter of letting people know what we have.
That's part of the way we talk about our city, or could become part of the way we talk about the city in the future.
It certainly could.
And the way we certainly, I think, would promote District 5 is not just a great place to live, a great place to have food and have dinner, right?
Right, yeah.
Some
of my colleagues consider me a foodie.
What else would be on that list, do you think, moving forward?
You know, I want to see us continue to be very fiscally conservative with what I call our pie. We have a $470 million pie that I refer to our budget, and you know, people enjoy that pie, and some people are used to that pie, and we have to be good stewards of that $470 million budget as we go forward, and we'll have maybe 9 different ideas on how to do that.
Sure.
But that's one of the things that one of our responsibilities as representatives that is so very important.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to ask you, because I think fiscal stewardship and being conservative with taxpayer resources is something that gets thrown around a lot, but maybe not everybody understands exactly what that means. So I was going to ask you your definition of what that meant.
Well, you know, if we wanted to cut a penny off our tax rate, which would still keep us at the top of that list, if we wanted to cut a penny off of that, then somewhere we've got to cut $2.5 million in spending, and then we have to cut another $500,000 that we won't get from the county with the sales tax distribution. So think about that. You know, look at that budget and think, you know, where are you going to cut that $3 million? And so that's why I think, you know, I don't jump in there and think we can cut a nickel off our rate all of a sudden. But I do think that we can gradually be a little more responsible than what we are right now.
Sure. I'm gonna flip the coin on you a little bit, so to speak, and get you to talk about being a businessman in this community too, and what that's all about.
Well, in 1982, I started a small retail furniture business, and in December it will begin its 33rd year. And I've seen ups and downs, of course, with the economy. Furniture is one of those things that, you know, people can put off. Sure. But I am fortunate that we've been able to keep the doors open all this time, and I keep hoping that it's going to pick up, as we're hearing that it's going to.
Does that give you, do you think, a unique perspective when you're out in the community and you're talking to folks about economic development and what it means to create? We talk a lot in city government terms of we can't necessarily create the jobs, but we can create the environment that creates the jobs. Does that help you being a small business owner?
I really think it does, and I would like to see more small business owners on council. You know, we do have some there now, and I'd like to see people that serve on that council that have had to make a payroll, and you don't have a choice on your budget. You know, you have to balance your budget when you own a small business.
Sure.
So I think that being a small business owner is certainly a plus in serving District 5.
Yeah. So council member, business owner, full-time father, full-time husband. How do you balance all of it?
It's funny that you asked me that, Donnie, because one of the things that people ask me, what's your biggest surprise after being appointed and then elected? And it's really been time management. And I continue to work on that. You know, into almost 2 years, I continue to work on that. It's not unusual for you to have 4 or 5 meetings a day. You come out of one meeting, you may have 15 messages. So time management is something that I continue to work on, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, it's a question that I often ask. I think a lot of our residents wonder what life is like for you all as elected officials, especially at the local level where you're out and about so much. This is not, contrary to popular belief, this is not a full-time, full-paying job, even though you may work 40 hours a week.
I think Madam Mayor Pro Tem estimated her salary to be about $1.25 an hour, and she's probably pretty close on that. But you know, I asked for this. I knew what the salary was. I knew going in some of the items, and so you know, this is something that I asked to do, and so.
You had read all the fine print before you signed up.
Yeah, and I had worked with Dr. Wade pretty closely on some of her campaigns and some of the issues there. So again, I was fortunate to have Dr. Wade's experience to help me in those early stages.
So Tony, you clearly have a passion for what you're doing. I think as anybody who listens to you speak about living in this community can tell that you mean it when you say that you love Greensboro and love being a part of it. A question that I've asked all of your colleagues is, what is it like to be a representative of Greensboro City Council? What does that mean to you, and what can you tell residents about that experience?
Well, you know, you get invited to a lot of events across the district, and one thing that I did early on was that I established a team of advisors. I didn't want to just hear from one area of District 5, so I went into each of the 22 precincts, and I asked somebody from each of those 22 precincts to communicate with me, and that has worked well, and I think that helps me to keep a pulse on the entire district. You know, District 5 is bowl-shaped. It goes from Adams Farm, up around Guilford College, up around the airport, around the Cardinal. And so I think that helps me keep a pulse on the entire district versus just hearing a few of the folks that, you know, like to speak out a lot.
Sure, yeah. So from a personal standpoint, what does it mean when you lay your head on your pillow at night and you go to sleep knowing that you're a council member and that you've done your work for the day? What's that mean to you?
Well, actually, when I put my head on my pillow at night, I sleep well, because I am determined to do what I think is right, and I hope that the residents in District 5 are happy with the way I represent them on the City Council. I think when I put my head on my pillow at night, I'm just hoping that I have done some good during the day somewhere along the line.
Well, Tony, thank you so much. Appreciate you taking time out of your hectic calendar to visit with us.
Thank you for visiting us over at the farm.
This has been great. Thanks so much, Tony. Appreciate it.